Hello, everyone. Good to see you. Today, I want to talk about the day a developer joins your team. Not the HR onboarding, not the badge pickup. The moment your team open a repo they never seen and wonder where to start. For the next 25 minutes, I'm going to show you how that moment changes when an AI agent sits next to you. I'm Michel Hubert. I work for 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗃𝗃 in France. As you can listen my accent, I'm sure you know I'm in French, but I assume. It's difficult to change, sorry. I'm MVP for 17 years, so a long time. 3 numbers to set the scene. 3 to 9 months. That's how long it takes, on average, for a developer to become fully productive in a new code base. Not to ship their first commit, to actually be autonomous. It's a long time. 40%. That's how much of week 1 is spent reading code, not writing it, just reading, and that's normal. Except that reading time is usually solitary and dependent how good the documentation is. And as we know, the documentation is generally obsolete, not up to date. That's the reality, that's the fact. 1 in 3 question is maybe my favorite, because when you start on a new project, 1 in 3 question never get asked out loud, because the new developer is afraid of looking dumb, because the tech lead is in a meeting, because the question feels too basic to deserve a Slack. These 3 numbers, this is not a HR problem. This is what we call developer experience. That's exactly what we are going to attack today. 4 facts. Act 1, understand the code base. Get from 0 to a mental map in minutes. Act 2, surface the hidden context. The decision that shaped the code and never made it into the docs. Act 3, identify what and who really matters. Critical components and the right people to talk to. Act 4, ship the first contribution. A real PR that follows the team's convention on day 1. At the beginning, I wanted to do all this demo full live, but when you use AI agents, sometimes it takes minutes rather than seconds. So I prefer to do a pseudo-live demo. To make this concrete, I introduce to you Sarah. She is a fictional developer, but the situation she's in, you've all seen it. Day 1, new team, a repo she's never opened. The README, last updated 14 months ago. So half wrong, it's not up to date. The tech lead is in meeting until 5 p.m. So difficult to have a conversation with him to understand the architecture, to understand the project. The code base, more than 2,000 files in the code base, a real code base. More than 5 different languages, Python, React, .NET, SQL, and so on. And we need to tackle with legacy and actual code, recent code. And the implicit deadline for the new developer, first PR at the end of the week. Nobody tells you, but everyone expects it. That's the situation. So when Sarah opens the code base, this is what she has. This code base comes from open source project, Postgre. I just picked that open source project by default. I have no relation with this code base. But what I wanted is a code base that has a long history. The more history you have, the better agent will be. So, Act 1, Sarah opens her agent and asks the more natural question in the world. I just joined the team, give me a tour, give me the entry point, explain to me the code base. Not from technical part, but also functional part. So this is a query I ask to my agent. Notice it's not just listing the folders. At workspace, gives copilots the actual code in context. It's reading imports, recent commits, and inferring boundaries from how the code actually connects. So I launch this prompt, and then the agent will analyze all the code base, the 2,000 files, and will explain to me what are the main entry points, for example. To have this kind of response, normally you should have a 2-hour whiteboard session with the tech lead. So in 2-3 minutes, you've got all the information. Here, I've got the description of the front end, which is developed in React. So also, I've got the different entry points, and that's it. Here, I've got the explanation of the Node.js server with the different methods, the different modules, the different class, and the file where I can find the class. The agent will give me the architecture and the data flow from the front to the back with the different methods, the different class. It will also explain the query path from the front end to the back end and the different Kafka topics. So it will really understand the code base, and so Sarah can understand quickly what is the project and where to find the correct code. It will also analyze what is the active code versus the older code. So here I've got the different folder where the code is really active in the last month. And here where I can find the legacy code. Sometimes it's code that is never used, but it's code that will not involved from several months. And what is really interesting is I asked the agent, give me the diagram of all the class of the project. It's not in the documentation. It's created by analyzing the code base and the relationship between the different classes, the different dependencies. If I zoom in, this is the diagram made by the agent. No documentation, just the code base. And that's very impressive. In just 3 minutes, you've got all this information. Act 2, this is where it gets interesting. Sarah has the map now, but a map doesn't tell you why the roads were drawn that way. She needs the context the documentation doesn't contain. This is a prompt, the new prompt assigned to the agent. Now I ask to the agent, look at this file funnel.py. Why does the file exist? What problem was it built to solve? As you can see, now I add at GitHub. It's not just reading the code. It's pulling PR, description, commit messages, issue threads to understand all the history of the module. Not just the last version, but all the history, the different steps, the different milestones for this particular module. So it will think during several seconds. And at the end, what I have, it will explain to me the origin, the motivation, and the major refactor for this module, based on the code base and all the PR, the commits, all the documentation it can analyze, it can index. It will also explain the core algorithm for this module. And then it will explain to me the full history from PR and commits. So as you can see, this project started in 2021, so a long history. So at the beginning, they use Krikaus Enterprise Edition. If we go deeper, phase 2, they replace this version by the open source version. So I've got also the PR with a different refactor. So then I can analyze manually if I want. 3, the next step, they decide to replace Postgres by Krikaus and so on. And then I've got the timeline with a different milestone for this module. So I can really understand what are the technical decisions, what is the real history of this module. And just in few seconds, without documentation. Next question to the agent. I see that Postgre, this open source project, uses Krikaus for analytics queries instead of Postgre. So I ask to the agent, find the original decision behind that choice. Why they migrate from Postgre to Krikaus? And the same, you will analyze all the decisions about Krikaus in the repository, in the PR, and then it will explain me the different phases, different milestones. The pre-existing POC before 2020. Phase 2, they had a pain point with Postgre, so I know the reason why they analyze Postgre versus Krikaus, because they had a specific pain point. If you read, it will explain what is a pain point. I think it's a performance issue they have for specific queries. Phase 3, they did a comparison with different solutions to replace Postgre. Phase 4, they started the migration. So they decided to move from Postgre to Krikaus. So I know I've got the milestone, I've got the different issue, and the PR where they start the migration. And then, as previous I explained earlier, we've got the different timeline from the suggestion of to do a POC, why they choose Krikaus, why they evaluate, the different database they evaluate, the migration epic, the first implementation PR, and when Krikaus was in production. One again, just by analyzing the GitHub repository. Next, I asked to my agent, what are the unwritten conventions? So I asked to the agent to explain to me what are the conventions in the code base for error handling, for logging, for naming convention, and so on. Not based on the documentation, but based on the real active code. So the agent will answer after a few seconds also. The logger, he will explain what I have to develop, what the code I use, what the code I have to use rather than the second one. So I need to use import strict load instead of logging. That's the convention implemented in the existing project. Same for the error handling. He will explain what I have to do based on the convention of the team. He will also explain how to implement the logging in my code. So, Act 3, Sarah now understands the code base. She has the context. Now she needs to prioritize the work she has to do. This query, I will understand, I will ask to the agent what are the 5 files I absolutely need to read first. What are the main part of the code? And the agent will answer, so he will give me the 5 important files: team, routing, and so. And here's the mental model after analyzing the 5 files. Then I'm going to ask also to the agent who are the main contributors for the cohort module. Because I need to, if I have a question about this module, who should I contact to have a discussion, to understand, to explain a specific point? So thanks to the PR, to the commit, I can retrieve who is the owner of the module. So then I can ask questions to this guy. Sometimes an agent has a strange behavior. Instead of give me the name, he just gives me the command to execute. Well, it's not an hallucination, but it's a strange behavior of the agent. Well, the main point is I've got the different query to execute if I want to know who are the best contributors. So Sarah can execute, can launch these commands if she wants. Act 4, the last one, ship the first PR. So I need to read an issue, I need to plan the approach, I need to implement, following the convention, run the test, debug, and draft the PR description. So for that, I use a real issue of this project, of the Postgre project. So I select this one, 58757. And then I will ask to the agent, with the issue, explain what is the issue, what are the technical changes implied, and which file should I update. So he will read the issue, he will explain to me what is the issue, and what are the files I should modify. So he will explain in the code what are the updates I need to make to be successful. So he will explain in all the files what I have to modify. Then, before, I can do by myself the update, but I can ask to the agent, do the update. So before writing the code, I just ask to the agent, give me an approach, find me the relevant files, so give me the workflow, give me the strategy to apply this issue. But don't update the code for the moment. So he will analyze the root cause, he will analyze, he will advise to me to change the backend, the database, by adding a new column. He will give me the serializer, he will give me all the code I have to implement. So now I analyze this plan, the plan is okay. So now I ask the agent, implement the fix. Let's do it. And here, if you see the red lines on the right, it's what the agent updated to fix the issue. Now, the agent applies the update. Now I ask to the agent, run the test to verify that I've got no regression. And if you find, if a test fails, debug it and fix it. After that, I wanted to, we can imagine the tests are okay. I want to draft the PR description. Once again, I asked to the agent, what is the convention in the team? What is the structure of the PR? So he will analyze the last PR, its structure, and he will give me the description automatically. So he will define the title, the problem, the different change made to fix the issue in the backend, the front end. Oh, sorry. And he will also, as you can see, the PR was authored by an agent. So I know that to fix this issue, I use Copilot and Claude Sonnet 4.6. That's very important to trace the issue if I've got a problem in production. 𝗬𝗲 and 𝗬𝗲𝗀𝗀 to take home AI as a context engine, not a code generator. In the onboarding process, the value is not in writing code, it's in understanding what already exists. Don't judge an agent by how well it writes, judge it now how well it explains. The code base is the documentation. An agent reads what actually is there, not what we wish was there. That changes your relationship with documentation. Fewer pages to maintain, more investment in the code base. So it's important that the code base is readable. It's important that you put some good comments on your code to allow the agent to analyze the context globally. And the last, senior time is the scarcest resource. Every question answered by AI is focused return to the team. So it's not a replacement of the human. It's like an assistant or a pair programmer that will help you to understand and to resolve the different issues. So try it on Monday. Give your next hire an AI agent. Measure time to first PR. That's a very important metric. If you cannot improve it, you've got a problem in your code base. Before AI, after AI, compare the time you have from the day one to the first PR. So to conclude, onboarding used to be a test of patience. With AI, it can become a test of curiosity. That's my favorite maxim. So what I wanted to demonstrate today is the onboarding. It's one prompt, one plan, one PR, day one. So in reality, it's not one day, but in few days rather than few months, you can onboard a new developer, and the developer will be more productive. If you got any question, you can contact me via LinkedIn if you want. We don't have time to answer questions today, except if you meet me during the build. Thanks for your time. Have a great build.